Have you ever wondered why some patients have a central line in their neck while others have one in their chest or arm? Or why some central lines can be used immediately while others need to be checked or confirmed with an X-ray first? Today, I'm going to break down the different types of central venous catheters, their specific uses, and the critical nursing considerations for each. Whether you're a nursing student preparing for your clinical rotations or an experienced nurse looking for a refresher, this information is essential for providing safe care to your patients with central access. By the end of this video, you'll be able to confidently identify and manage and troubleshoot any type of central line you encounter. Hey everyone! Welcome back to another nursing educational video. My name is Neil Brian Galvez and this is NurseBrain. And today we're going to be discussing one of my most favorite topics, I must say, the types of central venous catheters or CVCs. Central venous catheters are indwelling devices inserted into a vein of the central vasculature, with the tip typically positioned in the superior vena cava near the right atrium. Unlike peripheral IVs, central lines provide access to larger veins with higher blood flow, allowing for administration of medications that would be irritating to smaller peripheral veins, delivery of hypertonic solutions, rapid infusions of fluids, frequent blood sampling, and hemodynamic monitoring. In this video, we'll cover the four main types of central venous catheters: non-tunneled catheters, tunneled catheters, peripherally inserted central catheters or PICCs, and implanted ports. For each type, we'll discuss their characteristics, common uses, advantages, disadvantages, and important nursing considerations. By the end of this video, you have a comprehensive understanding of the different types of central lines and be better equipped to care for patients with central venous access. Let's start with non-tunneled central venous catheters, which are also known as percutaneous or non-cuffed CVCs. Non-tunneled CVCs are inserted by puncturing directly into the skin and vein without tunneling through the subcutaneous tissue. They're typically inserted at the bedside in emergency or critical care situations. These catheters are usually made of polyurethane or silicone and can have a single, double, triple, or even quadruple lumens. The most common insertion sites for non-tunneled CVCs are the following: internal jugular vein in the neck, subclavian vein below the clavicle, and femoral vein in the groin. Non-tunneled CVCs are primarily used for short-term access, typically from days up to about 3 weeks. They're commonly used for difficult intravenous access, administration of irritant drugs, vasopressors, and inotropes, short-term total parenteral nutrition, rapid fluid resuscitation, temporary hemodialysis access, hemodynamic monitoring. The main advantages of non-tunneled CVCs include the following: rapid insertion in emergency situations, no need for surgical placement, immediate usability for jugular and femoral sites, multiple lumens for simultaneous infusions, ability to administer large volumes quickly. However, there are several disadvantages to consider: higher infection rates compared to other types of CVCs, limited duration of use, higher risk of complications like pneumothorax, especially with subclavian approach, restricted patient mobility, require secure dressing to prevent dislodgement. Here are some nursing considerations. When caring for patients with non-tunneled CVCs, there are several important nursing considerations you need to remember. Site care. Perform dressing changes according to your facility's protocol, typically every 7 days or when the dressing is soiled or loose. Use chlorhexidine for site cleaning. Infection prevention. Maintain strict aseptic technique when accessing the line. Scrub the hub for at least 15 seconds before accessing. Complication monitoring. Regularly assess for signs of infection. catheter migration or thrombosis. For subclavian lines, be alert of signs of pneumothorax, especially immediately after insertion. Documentation. Document appearance of the site, dressing changes, and patency of all lumens. Patient positioning. For jugular lines, avoid extreme head turning, which can kink the catheter. For subclavian lines, avoid extreme arm movements on the affected site. Next, let's discuss peripherally inserted central catheters, commonly known as PICC lines. PICC lines are inserted through a peripheral vein, typically in the upper arm, basilic or cephalic vein, and advance until the tip reaches the central venous system, usually the superior vena cava. They're made of silicone or polyurethane and can have single or double lumens, though some specialized PICCs may have 3 lumens. PICCs are used for medium-term therapy, typically from weeks to months, up to about a year. They're commonly used for extended antibiotic therapy, chemotherapy administration, total parenteral nutrition, frequent blood sampling, patients with difficult IV access who need extended treatment. PICC lines offer several advantages. Lower risk for serious insertion complications compared to other CVCs. Can be inserted by specially trained nurses. No need for surgical placement. Lower infection rates compared to non-tunneled CVCs. More comfortable for patients. Preserve central veins for future access. No risk for pneumothorax during insertion. However, there are some disadvantages to consider. Higher risk for thrombosis, especially with larger French sizes. Limited number of lumens, typically single or double. Not suitable for emergency situations. Contraindicated in patients with end-stage renal disease who may need future AVF fistula creation. Risk of catheter malposition during insertion. When caring for patients with PICC lines, consider the following. Arm measurements. Measure and document arm circumference regularly to monitor for signs of thrombosis. Activity restrictions. Avoid blood pressure measurement, venipuncture, or IV access in the arm with the PICC. Instruct patients to avoid heavy lifting, typically more than 10 pounds, with the affected arm. Dressing and securement. Ensure proper securement to prevent migration or dislodgement. The catheter should be secured with a stat lock or other securement device. Flushing protocol. Follow your facility protocol for flushing, typically with 10 ml normal saline using the push-pause technique, followed by heparin if indicated. Patient education. Educate patients about activity restrictions, signs of complications to report, and the importance of keeping the dressing clean and dry. Now, let's move on to tunneled central venous catheters. Tunneled CVCs are long-term catheters where the proximal end is tunneled subcutaneously from the insertion site and brought out through the skin at an exit site. The key feature of tunneled catheters is a Dacron's cuff that sits within the tunnel. This cuff promotes tissue ingrowth, which helps secure the catheter and creates a barrier against infection. Common types of tunneled catheters include Hickman's catheters, Broviac catheters, PermCat, or other tunneled dialysis catheters. Tunneled CVCs are designed for long-term use, from months to years. They're commonly used for the following: long-term chemotherapy, extended antibiotic therapy, long-term total parenteral nutrition, frequent blood sampling, chronic hemodialysis access, specialized dialysis catheters, patients who need long-term central access but are not candidates for PICCs. Tunneled CVCs offer several advantages. Lower infection rates compared to non-tunneled CVCs, secure placement due to the cuff, long-term usability, multiple lumens available, higher flow rates compared to PICCs, can be used for blood draws and all types of infusions. However, there are some disadvantages, require surgical placement, more difficult to remove due to cuff ingrowth, visible external catheter, risk for insertion complications such as pneumothorax and bleeding, body image concerns for some patients. When caring for patients with tunneled CVCs, consider the following. Exit site care. Perform dressing changes according to your facility's protocol. Once the insertion site is healed, usually after 2 to 3 weeks, some tunneled catheters may not require a dressing. Cuff management. Be aware of the cuff location and never attempt to advance or pull back a tunneled catheter past the cuff. Clamp use. Ensure the patient understands when and how to use the clamps. Some tunneled catheters have specific clamping requirements. Patient education. Teach patients how to care for their catheter at home, including site care. Activity considerations. Most activities are permitted with tunneled catheters, but patients should avoid submerging the catheter in water, swimming, bathing. Finally, let's discuss implanted ports, also known as a port-the-cath or totally implanted venous access devices or TVADs. Implanted ports consist of a reservoir or port that is surgically placed under the skin, typically in the chest or occasionally in the arm. The port is connected to a catheter that extends into the central venous system. The entire device is implanted under the skin with no external components when not in use. Ports require access with special non-coring needle, Hubbard needle, that is designed to penetrate the silicone septum without damaging it. Implanted ports are designed for long-term intermittent access, typically from months to years. They're commonly used for intermittent chemotherapy, patients who require periodic infusions, patients with long-term therapy needs who wants to avoid an external catheter, patients who are active or concerned about body image. Implanted ports offer several advantages: lowest infection rate among all central venous access devices, no external components when not in use, minimal impact in body image and daily activities, no home maintenance required when not accessed, can remain in place for years, compatible with all types of infusions, allow for swimming and bathing without restrictions. However, there are some disadvantages. This requires surgical placement and removal, requires skilled personnel for access with special needles. This is not ideal for continuous use. This may be difficult to access in obese patients. Potential for port flipping, where the port rotates under the skin. When caring for patients with implanted ports, consider the following. Accessing the port. Use strict aseptic technique and only use non-coring Hubbard needles. Stabilize the port with your non-dominant hand while inserting the needle perpendicular to the port. Needle changes. When ports are accessed for continuous use, the Hubbard needle should be changed every 7 days according to most facility protocols. Flushing protocol. When not in use, ports typically need to be accessed and flushed every 4 to 6 weeks with saline, followed by heparin, according to your facility's protocol. Deceasing. When removing the Hubbard needle, maintain positive pressure by withdrawing to prevent blood backflow and potential occlusion. Patient comfort. Consider using topical anesthetic cream before accessing ports, especially for pediatric patients or adults with needle anxiety. Now that we have covered each type of central venous catheter, let's compare them side by side to help you remember the key differences. Duration of use. Non-tunneled, days to weeks. PICC, weeks to months. Tunneled, months to years. Implanted port, months to years. Infection risk, from highest to lowest. Non-tunneled, PICC. Tunneled, implanted ports. Insertion procedure. Non-tunneled, bedside procedure. PICC, bedside procedure by trained inserter. Tunneled, surgical procedure. Implanted port, surgical procedure. External components. For non-tunneled, external catheter. For PICC, there's also external catheter. Tunneled, external catheter. Implanted port, no external components when not accessed. Patient impact, non-tunneled, significant mobility restrictions. For PICC, some activity restrictions. Tunneled, minimal activity restrictions. Implanted port, minimal impact on activities. Common complications and management. Regardless of the type of central venous catheter, there are several common complications that nurses should be vigilant for. Here are some of the signs of infection: redness, warmth, or drainage at the insertion site, fever or chills, unexplained elevation in white blood cell count. Management. You have to notify the provider immediately. Obtain blood cultures as ordered, both peripheral and from the catheter. Administer antibiotics as prescribed. The catheter may need to be removed depending on the severity and type of infection. Signs of occlusion include inability to flush the catheter, inability to aspirate blood, sluggish flow, alarms on infusion pumps. Management. Never force a flush. Check for mechanical causes, kink tubing, clamp catheter. Notify the provider. Thrombolytic agents may be ordered to clear the occlusion. Signs of thrombosis include swelling of the extremity, pain or discomfort, visible collateral veins, warmth and redness of the affected area. Management. Notify the provider immediately. Ultrasound may be ordered to confirm diagnosis. Anticoagulation therapy may be initiated. The catheter may need to be removed. Signs include change in external catheter length, leaking at the insertion site, pain during infusion, swelling in the neck or chest. Management. Stop all infusions. Clamp the catheter if leaking. Notify the provider immediately. An X-ray may be ordered to confirm position. To summarize what we've covered about the different types of central venous catheters, non-tunneled CVCs are best for short-term use in acute care settings. PICC lines are ideal for medium-term therapy and can be managed in outpatient settings. Tunneled catheters provide secure, long-term access for patients needing ongoing treatment. Implanted ports offer the most convenience and lowest infection risk for patients requiring intermittent long-term access. Understanding the difference between these central venous access devices helps nurses provide appropriate care, prevent complications, and educate patients effectively. Remember that regardless of the type of CVCs, strict adherence to infection prevention practices is essential to prevent central line associated bloodstream infection or CLABSIs. Thank you for watching this comprehensive guide to central venous catheter. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more nursing educational content. If you have any questions or topics you'd like to see covered in future videos, leave a comment below. Until next time, take care.